I wasn't a fan of the non-dom change. I thought that was very foolish, I have to say. But that wasn't Labour, that was Conservative that came up with that smart idea. 60,000, I mean, you've got 60,000 very wealthy people in London. Why do you want to encourage them to leave? That doesn't make any sense to me, really. Because they all bring, enormous value to that economy in the south of, I mean, most of the non-doms are in London, in the south of England. But I think that regeneration of southern Manchester would attract quite a lot of investment.
What's your take on the UK right now, ahead of the elections, on the UK? Is it good for business? I mean, you're here, you're here in London.
I think that, the Conservatives now have had, a fairly long stint, and they've put forward a whole series of Prime Ministers that haven't been terribly successful, really, to be honest, the last 4 or so. So, I think the UK, everybody in the UK now, you can see that the mood in the UK, everybody's ready for a change. They've had enough. So it's, I think I've met Keir Starmer a couple of times. I like Keir. I think he'll do a very sensible job.
You've been disappointed with the way Brexit has been run? Is that a fair qualification?
Yeah, it is actually. I agree. Yeah.
So how would you do it differently, and how do you think Labour will deal with it? Would you be? Would you ever go into politics?
No, I don't think they'd have me. Actually, I'm probably not. I'm not PC enough, I don't think, for politics, and I'm certainly not very woke. But no, I mean,
how would you run the country?
I think. How would you run the country? I think. For me, you've got immigration, which is one issue, and the other issue is the economic issue. If you just look at the economic issue for the UK, it's really, in my view, it's quite simple. Is the UK economy is £2 trillion. The GDP is £2 trillion, and the government take half of it, at least half of it. So the government spend is £1 trillion. Right? So, in my view, they're major. And if you look at Ineos, we spend 60 or 70 billion a year, something like that. The government spends 1 trillion. That's an awful lot more than us. So you need to spend the money well, because you're not spending your own money. You're spending the population of the UK's money. And there are good reasons why people pay taxes. You've got healthcare, you've got police, you've got roads, all those types of things. And I don't think the government manages those things very well, and I don't think it focuses on them very well, and I don't think it's got the right quality people running them. But they're spending £1 trillion. The health service is a mess. We don't have security anymore. Education's a bit of a mess. We can't run sewage systems in the UK. I mean, we had sewage systems running in the Victorian era, and we allow all the utilities. I mean, just take that as a simple example. We allow all the water utilities to be sold off. They were mainly bought by French companies. Then the French companies pay £50 billion in dividends, but don't reinvest in the equipment to ensure that we've got top-class equipment to manage our, sewage and drinking water facilities. And then all of a sudden it's a crisis. I mean, why doesn't the government say, if you want to buy a water utility, then these are the minimum requirements you need to, and if the people don't behave, then do what they do in America, they lock them up. There's some consequence if you misbehave. So you've got that whole issue of the economy, and then you've got immigration, and they haven't dealt with immigration. They've sort of danced around. But I think we had 500,000 people come in the UK last year. Well, 500,000 people is 2 times the size of Southampton. I mean, 2 Southamptons in a year, and you think about all the infrastructure. One of the basic problems we've got because we've allowed so many people into the country, and that will go on forever because, we speak English in England, and all the planet speaks English now, and there are 8 billion people in the planet, and there are going to be 10 billion people by 2050. So there's always going to be a flood of people trying to get into the UK, so they need to be able to deal with it. But we probably have got, an infrastructure for 50 or 55 million people, and we've got 68 million people. So the hospitals don't work, the roads don't work, nothing works. And at the end of the day, somebody has to say no. You can't. We can't take any more people in, because if you bring 500,000 people in a year, how many schools do you have to build? How many roads do you have to build? How many sewage systems? How many police stations? And we're not doing that. We're just sort of cramming them all in on the existing infrastructure, and it doesn't work.
How do you think Labour will deal with that? Do you think Sir Keir will be a good Prime Minister?
Well, I think he's a very sensible man, and he's an intelligent man. So I don't know. I think you probably have to do some unpopular things to be able to get those types of issues dealt with. It's like at Manchester United. I'm having to do some things which are unpopular, but I mean, I'm happy to do it in a political environment. In a way, it's a bit. I mean, I think at the end of the day, doing difficult things and a degree of unpopularity in a funny sort of way might make you more popular, because somebody's seeing that you're standing up and making some difficult decisions rather than just sort of blowing with the wind a bit. I don't know. I mean, time will tell. I can't predict how that will all go.